We love cars, and we love big Hollywood epics, but the truly great movie cars are the ones that not only stand the test of time, but are also as famous as the characters and actors within it. You only have to look at films such as Smokey and the Bandit, The Cannonball Run, and umpteen James Bond movies to find some truly sensational movie cars. And then, of course, there are those that slip through the cracks. Remember that gorgeous Jaguar XKR Roadster in Cruel Intentions? No? How about now? Yeah, you do, Reese Witherspoon. However, there are better examples than that, so here's my list of the ultimate top 10 movie cars of all time, starting with those that just fell short. Dustin Hoffman felt uncomfortable with Mrs. Robinson in his Alfa Romeo Spyder in The Graduate long before Christian Bale climbed into the maddest Batmobile of them all. Then Ricky Bobby's dad taught him how to wrestle with a cougar in his Chevelle Malibu, but we'll never forget the temptress that was Eleanor in Gone in 60 Seconds. Then there's the phantasmagorical machine driven by Dick Van Dyke and the completely fictitious lightning bolt driven by Emil Hirsch. And perhaps the sexiest Bond car of all time, the DBS, that Daniel Craig totaled in Casino Royale. But if these cars didn't make the list, what did? Well, let's begin with the most rubbish car in the list. An AMC Pacer shouldn't be in the top 10 of anything that doesn't include the word cack. But if you paint it in blue, out of flame decal, chuck it onto the set of Wayne's World, and get 5 nutters singing and headbanging along to Queen's greatest ever record, then my friend, you have just created a legend. Mamma mia, mamma mia! A Porsche 911 Turbo doesn't seem all that special from the outset, but you're forgetting, this is no ordinary Porsche 911 Turbo. It's my Lowry's. And it's probably the only Porsche 911 Turbo in the world that can outrun an AC Cobra. And that's even more unbelievable than when Arnie Schwarzenegger tried to outdo a Porsche in a Sunbeam Alpine. See Commando. But true, what a Porsche. You'd be forgiven for thinking that the ECTO 1 was atrocious. But no, it wasn't. It was quick, well-equipped, and dangerously iconic. Wherever Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray needed to be, it would deliver them there, with no delay and no nonsense. And purists will be delighted to hear that when Melissa McCarthy and her band of funny ladies needed to revive the brand, the ECTO 1 was called back into service. Yes! In 7th is easily the most valuable car in this list, the Ferrari borrowed by Ferris Bueller. It was an epic joyride in probably the most rare and valuable of cars you're ever going to lay eyes on. But most people will remember the car in this movie not for how it looked or sounded, but how it met its end. And yes, they genuinely did destroy Ferrari to make that memorable scene. Fortunately, it was only a replica. The boys have told me absolutely wholeheartedly that Herbie is not allowed in the top 5, because if he were, that would make us look pathetic. But even my argument that he appeared in 6 movies, his own TV show, and countless streams of merchandising worldwide for 5 decades just can't convince them. So 6th place he will sit, but in my heart, he'll always be number 1. Anyway, what's the greatest Batmobile of all time? Tim Burton's, of course. No, I'm sorry, you can shout and kick and scream all you want, but I will not be swayed. The best Batman of all time was Michael Keaton, and the best Batmobile of all time was the Winged Warrior. Then, of course, Joel Schumacher and Val Kilmer rode in and destroyed everything, so it remains as yet unbeaten, and long may it stay that way. In 4th place, to the layman, it may just look like a plain ordinary Ford Mustang, but it helped cement the icon that is Steve McQueen. As if the Great Escape wasn't already justification of his coolness, he became the icy cool San Francisco detective Bullitt, who starred in one of cinema's most famous and epic car chases, with McQueen at the wheel of the awesome 390 CID. Fwah! Onto the podium goes the best Bond car of all time. And yes, this was a tough choice, especially up against that underwater Lotus Esprit. But let's be fair, the DB5 was not only cool, but timeless, in the hands of both Sean Connery in the 60s and Daniel Craig in the new millennium. And in 50 years of British cinema, the DB5 genuinely hasn't aged. What a magic trick. Where we're going, we don't need roads. 7 words that make you think of the world's best worst car ever. The Delorean was a commercial failure and a total joke, and yet only when Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd transform it into a time machine does it become legendary. And 88 miles an hour genuinely becomes the only speed to drive at for the rest of your life. How did they do that? But when the Mini Cooper burst onto the scene, I'll bet Sir Alec Isigonis had no idea at all that it would go down in history as the world's best getaway car ever. Even people who haven't watched The Italian Job all the way through have those mini scenes burned into the back of their retinas forever. And when Mark Wahlberg and the modern minis showed up, we all threw up in disgust, because you can't beat Michael Caine and the day they were only supposed to blow the bloody doors off. I wonder whatever happened to that idea anyway. Yep, the Mini is the greatest movie car of all time. Unless you disagree in the comments box below, of course.